Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Vitter, do you believe that Brown versus Board of Education was correctly decided?
Senator, I don't mean to be coy, but I think I get into a difficult area when I start commenting on Supreme Court decisions, which are correctly decided and which I may disagree with. Again, my personal political or religious views I would set aside. That is Supreme Court precedent. It is binding. If I were honored to be confirmed, I would be bound by it, and of course I would uphold it.
Do you believe it was correctly decided?
And again, I will respectfully not comment on what could be my boss's ruling, the Supreme Court. I would be bound by it, and if I start commenting on I agree with this case or don't agree with this case, I think we get into a slippery slope. I would be, if I'm honored to be confirmed, I would be bound by Supreme Court precedent, and that's what I would follow, and Fifth Circuit precedent.
Are there any cases that you can tell us were correctly decided by the United States Supreme Court?
Well, in hindsight, Senator, it's very easy when we have hindsight and looking back through history to see ones that were not correctly decided. And so it's very easy to see a Plessy versus Ferguson and to read Justice Harlan's dissent, which of course became the basis for Brown versus Education, Board of Education, and to look at that and say, well, that sounds very obvious to us now in 2018 that was the right decision, but that's hindsight. I have the benefit of that hindsight. Again, Supreme Court precedents that are in existence now.
I'm not asking you to exercise hindsight. I'm asking you as a matter of your legal and professional judgment, whether there's any case that you can tell us was correctly decided by the United States Supreme Court.
Again, my personal views on Supreme Court decisions, I would put aside. I would be bound by those decisions. If I am honored to be confirmed by the Senate, I would take an oath that I would uphold those decisions, and that's what I would do, Senator.
Umbrella. She's up, she's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. So down in Florida, a 31-year-old brother, Corey Jones, was shot and killed by Palm Beach Gardens police. Now, let's go back and see what led to the death of this brother and what caused the police to shoot and kill him.
This morning, an independent investigation is underway after the deadly shooting of a Delray Beach City employee by a police officer. 31-year-old Corey Jones moonlighted as a musician. He was apparently on his way home from a job last weekend when his car broke down. Michelle Miller shows us within hours he was dead. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. Corey Jones was the grandson of a church bishop and the first cousin of San Francisco 49er Anquan Bolden. He had car trouble early Sunday morning when he was approached by a plainclothes police officer who drove up in an unmarked squad car. What happened next is under investigation.
Family members say they knew something was wrong when Corey Jones didn't show up for Sunday church services.
Anything you need, Corey would be right there. If you needed a shirt, he would give you his shirt. He would be cold just to keep you warm.
They say the 31-year-old had a rhythm all his own. He played drums at the Bible Church of God in Boynton Beach, where his grandfather serves as bishop.
He don't deserve this. He don't. And we just need justice.
The family of Corey Jones is struggling to understand why the 31-year-old was shot and killed by a police officer after his car broke down on a Florida highway.
My nephew broke him down on the side of the road.
It was around 3:15 a.m. Sunday. Jones was on the side of Interstate 95. His brother tells CNN affiliate WPTV Jones called him for help, saying he needed a tow truck. Palm Beach Gardens police say Officer Nouman Raja, who was on duty but wearing plain clothes and driving an unmarked police car, stopped to investigate what he thought was an abandoned vehicle on the exit ramp.
As the officer exited his vehicle, he was suddenly confronted by an armed subject. As a result of the confrontation, the officer discharged his firearm, resulting in the death of Mr. Corey Jones.
Officer Raja joined the force in April. The 38-year-old officer was not wearing a body camera, and none of the department's squad cars are fitted with dashboard cameras. Jones was a graduate of the University of Akron in Ohio and worked for the Delray Beach Housing Authority.
It's a big blow. A big blow. It hurt, man. It hurt so bad.
With no cameras and no known witnesses, his family wants answers.
In a state of disbelief, because of all people, Corey is not someone that we would think would be shot by a police officer.
The officer involved was hired by the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department earlier this year and is now on paid administrative leave.
There are no records with our agency of any complaints, disciplinary actions, or internal affairs investigations against Officer Raja.
Palm Beach Gardens police have not said what type of weapon Jones allegedly had. Relatives said they don't think he owned a gun. Officer Raja has been placed on paid administrative leave following departmental policy.
So this brother Corey Jones, who was a drummer, was on his way home after a gig when his car broke down on the highway. So he called his brother CJ Jones, who actually played in the NFL, and he also called one of his bandmates for help. So eventually, they ended up getting roadside assistance, and the brother was just sitting there waiting on the tow truck to come, minding his own business. Then, all of a sudden, a little after 3 o'clock in the morning, Officer Nouman Raja, a cop wearing plain clothes, just a t-shirt and jeans, pulled up in an unmarked white van with the windows tinted out of nowhere. Now, the police say Officer Nouman Raja was in plain clothes because they assigned him to go look for car burglars in parking lots. Now, I don't know what that had to do with this brother in a broken down car on the side of the highway, but in a sworn statement, this cop said he thought the car was abandoned, so he left his duty gun, his vest, his badge, his radio, and he didn't have his uniform on. And then he said he repeatedly identified himself as a police officer and even offered this brother some help. Then Officer Nouman Raja claims that as soon as he identified himself as police, this brother Corey Jones jumped back, pulled his gun, and aimed it at the cop. Now, even though he left his department-issue gun back in the car, he just so happened to have his personal gun and was left with no other choice but to shoot this brother 3 times. And then he claims this brother took off running, I guess after he shot him, and then turned around and pointed the gun at him again, forcing him to shoot 3 more times. Now, even though they found a gun, which he legally owned, it was 80 feet away from his body. But the police already had their capes on and they were already defending this cop until they found out this brother was on the phone with roadside assistance the whole time. And they realized the whole thing was recorded on audio.
Today, more photos, video, and audio recordings have been released in the Corey Jones shooting investigation. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Shannon Cake. Welcome to the Now, South Florida. We begin with this breaking news. For the first time, we are hearing Corey Jones' voice the morning he was approached by a Palm Beach Gardens police officer and then killed, all while waiting for a tow truck. The Now's Michelle Casada with what the call actually reveals. Michelle?
Shannon, the audio recording we're about to play is from when Corey called AT&T roadside assistance. It was after 3 a.m. October 18, 2015, when Corey broke down off I-95 at the PGA exit. His entire conversation with the dispatcher was recorded while he waited for a tow truck, revealing what happened when Officer Nouman Raja walked up.
What's the address of the vehicle location?
I'm off the PGA southbound exit. On 95.
On 95?
I-95 exit PGA southbound.
Okay, is there any, hold on, let me write southbound down. Is there any buildings, landmarks, anything like that, that I could use to pinpoint your address?
Huh? I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Get your hands up. Get your hands up.
Oh my gosh. There's gunshots.
We just obtained a copy of Raja's interview with police. Raja, at the time of the shooting, was dressed in plain clothes, and he was driving an unmarked white van. He says he saw what he thought was an empty vehicle parked on the off-ramp, but when he pulled up, he says Corey Jones got out of the car and pointed a gun at him. Raja told investigators he identified himself as a police officer, and he says that is when Jones started running.
The whole time I'm like giving him commands, I'm yelling, screaming at him, I'm like, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun. And as he's running, he gets about like right just a little past where the guardrail starts, and he does this number, and I see his whole body spin, and I saw like a flash, a silver flash of like a metallic flash come at me, and in my head I immediately said, aim, aim, and I was like, aim, and I was like, and I just picked that front sight right in the center mass, and I just pulled the trigger 3 times, and I saw him drop, and I saw something silver fall.
Investigators say Raja's story is simply untrue. They say they found Corey Jones's gun about 80 feet from Jones's body. They say there's no way he could have spun with the gun in his hand and then dropped the gun right next to his body after he was shot. They also say Raja did not know at the time that he gave that interview that investigators already had a recording. Corey Jones is on the phone with roadside assistance when Raja pulled up, and they say you can hear in that recording that Raja never identifies himself as a police officer. Right now, Raja is charged in connection with Corey Jones's death. He is still awaiting trial.
Now, initially, the police and Officer Nouman Raja didn't realize there was any evidence against him, and they were ready to justify the murder of this young brother by a plainclothes cop in an unmarked car. And just because this brother was practicing his Second Amendment rights and had his legal conceal permit, but there was too much evidence against the cops, even the person with roadside assistance was ready to testify against the cop. And he was caught in so many lies, even the police couldn't defend him anymore. They had to fire him, and eventually they charged him.
And the police report that Aaron Berg released just hours ago says that Officer Nouman Raja's intent was to kill Corey Jones. They say it was the totality of the situation. The unmarked van going up the wrong way of the PGA exit, the plain clothes he was wearing, and not identifying himself as a police officer, that all leads to culpable negligence in the shooting and killing of Corey Jones. Former Officer Nouman Raja originally told investigators he identified himself as a cop when he pinned in a Jones car on the PGA exit. But according to this grand jury report, Corey Jones' call to roadside assistance recorded the actual incident, and Raja was wearing plainclothes, not a badge or a vest, and he never said he was a police officer. And within seconds, he fired his gun 3 times rapidly at Jones, then another 3 times more deliberately as Jones was running away, even though he told them he saw Jones throw down his own gun.
The grand jury today found that the use of force by Mr. Raja was unjustified. Mr. Raja has been arrested and taken into custody.
According to the report, Raja asked Jones repeatedly if he were okay, and each time Jones said, "I'm good." And Raja confrontationally asked him twice, "Really? Really?" And then suddenly shouted for Jones to drop his weapon and started firing. The grand jury concluding that it was grossly negligent of Officer Raja to fire and to approach Jones in this way. He wasn't wearing the vest or the badge that his sergeant claims he told him to. And he even left his police radio and his police gun in that unmarked van, and he used his own personal Glock to shoot and kill Corey Jones and used his own personal cell phone to call 911.
Gun right now!
For the first time, we hear what former Palm Beach Gardens police officer Nouman Raja was telling dispatch when he confronted drummer Corey Jones, who was shot to death last October. Jones was broken down off an I-95 ramp, waiting for help, when Raja, in plain clothes and in an unmarked car, approached Jones.
Got one down. I just shot one person. I'm at that off-ramp right behind Doubletree Blackmail.
Nouman Raja, please.
But Raja was arrested a month ago, charged with manslaughter and attempted murder after a grand jury determined his story did not add up.
I came out, I saw him come out with a handgun, I gave him commands, I identified myself, and he turned, pointed the gun at me, started running, I shot him.
While Jones had a gun, investigators say it was never used and found feet away from his body. The call to roadside assistance was recorded and contradicts Raja's version of events. The state attorney says at no time during the recording did Raja say he was a police officer.
All right, stay on the phone, you all right, buddy?
Gardens Alpha 1, I'm by the radio now.
All right, hang up the phone, bud.
All right, bye.
Now, they ended up charging this cop, Nouman Raja, with murder and manslaughter charges. And this cop is planning to use the stand your ground laws in Florida as a defense. Now, mind you, in the same state of Florida, they just ruled against the state attorney, Aramis Ayala, because she was trying to get rid of the death penalty. By the way, based off facts and evidence. But now, in the same state of Florida, they allow cops to use the stand your ground laws when it comes to murdering somebody. And there's a good chance this defense will work because it already has. In the same area, Deputy Peter Peraza, who shot and killed a mentally ill brother, Jermaine McBean, who had an air rifle, and he was the first cop to use the stand your ground laws to beat a manslaughter charge. So right now in Florida, until another judge reverses it, case law says a cop can use the stand your ground laws to get away with murder. Now, they charged Officer Nouman Raja back in 2015, and 3 years later, they still haven't gone to trial. And recently, they just moved the trial date back again for the 4th time.
Developing now, the trial for the former police officer accused of shooting and killing Corey Jones is now delayed until July. Former Palm Beach Gardens officer Nouman Raja and his lawyers are now using a stand your ground defense to try to get the charges against him dismissed. Today, a judge set a hearing on that for the end of March, pushing Raja's trial back from April to July. Corey Jones's family says the delay is hurtful.
Still believing that we're going to get justice concerning our son, Corey, and we will not stop fighting. We will continue to keep the beat alive for our son.
It's a complicated case. The issues of stand your ground are complicated. It's going to require a hearing. That'll be resolved, and we will be ready for trial.
Raja's attorney just filed the stand your ground defense last week. The judge will hear those arguments beginning March 28th.
And the whole time, this cop has been out of jail on a $250,000 bond, still working with the police union, still working around guns, even though he's not supposed to. But if we're going to be waiting on them to give us justice and punish themselves, we're going to be waiting for a long time. This is the reason why we need institutions. The one thing we have not done for the last couple hundred years was build institutions designed to protect us. And every time that we tried, it was systematically attacked and destroyed. But we have to realize until we build those institutions, then we're going to be attacked and destroyed anyway. And we have no excuses. We could easily build institutions that could protect us right now. We can put together organizations run by the most successful black businessmen and women to help grow our economy that we all can contribute to. We already give so much money away. A white man in Australia can create a fake Black Lives Matter page on Facebook and scam so many people because a lot of people just give their money away. If we're going to give our money away, we can at least do it with a purpose. Because if we don't create our own economy and practice group economics, then we're never going to be able to build the institutions that we need. The institutions to teach our own children. The institutions to help our mentally ill. And until we put aside our differences and our tribalism and respond with more urgency than they have to keep their place, we're not going to be able to build institutions to protect ourselves.
That's right. Raja is here inside his home where he will remain until trial. And I did get my hands on his newly filed court documents and also discovered some new information, including where he was working for this police and military tactical arms gear company, where the gun enthusiast and former police officer has been working since he was fired. This is Nouman Raja's booking document, which lists the charges against him for shooting and killing Corey Jones in October. It also lists the address of where Raja was picked up by deputies Wednesday. According to that arrest report, Nouman Raja was arrested here at Tactical Products Group on Wednesday. It's closed right now for inventory, but inside the guy tells me this is a new company. The old one moved and he knows nothing about Nouman Raja or his arrest. That man says he works for Delray Exotic Motors, which has the same phone number and owner as Tactical Arms Products. TPG supplies military-style gear here and in the Middle East. We saw some guns lining the hallway and camo vests and helmets in an open room. The police union tells me Raja has been working here the past few months. As part of Raja's house arrest, he must surrender all guns and weapons to the sheriff's office. But a search of court records reveals no search warrant has been issued to his address, so it's unclear if he has turned over his weapons yet or not. Raja will be back in court June 20th for arraignment. His case has been randomly assigned to Judge Samantha Foyer, who also presided over the recent case of Boynton Beach cop Stephen Marorino, who was found not guilty of rape last year. And not much activity here in this quiet neighborhood, although we did see one man who looked like he might be Raja's sheriff's office deputy brother leaving, as well as a woman who could have been his wife, but we're not identifying anyone here in this neighborhood. All quiet here as Nouman Raja begins his first night on house arrest.
This is the second time in less than 2 months the attorneys for former Palm Beach Gardens police officer Nouman Raja have put in a request to the court to reduce his house arrest. Now, Raja's attorney, Richard Lubin, now argues his client has followed all conditions of his bond and house arrest since his release. Raja is charged with attempted murder and manslaughter in the October 2015 shooting death of Corey Jones. The Boynton Beach musician was waiting on a tow truck on the off-ramp of I-95 at PGA Boulevard. Now, Raja has since been fired and on house arrest and able to work and bring his daughter to school 5 days a week. Raja's attorney is now pushing the envelope even more by attempting to get rid of house arrest altogether. In documents filed, his attorney says the state is trying to use house arrest as a form of punishment. He's referencing a judge denying Raja's request in January to attend his daughter's function at a school that he brings her to 5 days out of the week. Now, the judge citing that it was a slippery slope. Now, Nouman Raja is expected to be back in court later this month.
Details today in the criminal case against Nouman Raja. He's the former Palm Beach Gardens police officer who shot and killed local drummer Corey Jones in 2015. Defense attorneys told a judge they need more information about the charges against Raja, arguing prosecutors should be ordered to provide them. A judge disagrees. Contact 5 investigator Sam Smink explains the defense says they still won.
Defense attorneys for Nouman Raja told a Palm Beach County judge they're having trouble creating their defense strategy, claiming the state hasn't given them all of the information they need. Raja is charged with both manslaughter and attempted murder. The defense says because of those dual charges, they need more facts, including which shot out of 6 fired by Raja killed Corey Jones.
And I bang, 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 and I fired about 2 or maybe 3 rounds.
In October 2015, investigators say Raja, dressed in plain clothes, approached Jones's car, which was broken down off 95. Raja claims Jones pulled a gun on him and he shot back in self-defense. But investigators say Jones's body was found a significant distance away from Jones's gun and that Raja lied during interviews.
Of the association says the former cop who killed Corey Jones is being unfairly targeted.
Is Raja being punished for being a policeman? Do we want law enforcement officers to hesitate before they do their jobs?
Nouman Raja had less than 6 months at the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department when he shot Corey Jones. John Kazanjian says Raja, still a probationary officer at the time, should not have been put in an undercover position to begin with. Kazanjian also going after the state attorney, claiming outside forces have influenced the case. The association president even brought out the probable cause affidavit Thursday, insisting the AT&T roadside assistance recording proves Raja identified himself before pulling a gun on Jones.
Obviously, we're all intelligent, grown adults. Something must have been said when Mr. Jones said, huh. So Officer Raja was not lying. He was telling the truth when he identified himself as a police officer.
That clashes with the narrative in the report. According to the affidavit, the AT&T recording picked up Jones's car door chiming when it opens before any conversation that begins with a short exchange of words and ends in gunfire, over the course of which the affidavit states Raja never identified himself as an officer. The Benevolent Association isn't just verbally supporting Raja, they plan to pay in full for his legal fees.
We expect that justice will be served and the truth, just will come out.
In Friday's hearing, state prosecutors argued the defense was simply trying to learn their trial strategy. They also admitted that they don't know which shot killed Jones. Ultimately, the judge ruled against the defense, but Raja's attorneys told Channel 5 they still won.
The state announced today that they don't know. So in a lot of ways, we obtained the information that we wanted.
The defense plans to argue that Raja killed Jones in self-defense, and that will be taken up at a stand your ground hearing on March 28th.
Off the top at 6, outrage tonight after a judge dismissed manslaughter charges against a Broward Sheriff's deputy who shot and killed a man who was holding an air rifle. But prosecutors aren't giving up. They plan to appeal the ruling.
Local 10 News investigator Amy Viteri is live in the newsroom with this controversial decision. Amy.
Lori and Calvin, it's been almost exactly 3 years since the shooting death of Jermaine McBean. Deputy Peter Peraza has been suspended without pay since the indictment late last year. And after learning the judge ruled to dismiss the charge, the state attorney's office told us they will appeal.
The ruling is that the case is dismissed.
A judge heavily weighed the mental state of Jermaine McBean at the time of his shooting death at the hands of BSO Deputy Peter Peraza. McBean, a 33-year-old IT worker, was not taking prescribed antipsychotic medications on July 31st, 2013, when he carried an air rifle into the Green Tree Apartments in Oakland Park. Peraza shot McBean when he ignored commands to drop the weapon and allegedly pointed it at deputies.
What matters is perception. That air rifle looked very real.
Wednesday's order from the judge dismisses manslaughter charges against Peraza after a grand jury indicted him last December.
Mr. McBean never, ever pointed this air gun at any deputy or at anyone else. Never did.
Michael McCarthy was the lone eyewitness out of 5 who said McBean kept the rifle on his shoulders. In Wednesday's ruling, the court finds McCarthy's testimony to be the least credible of the eyewitnesses. His testimony directly contradicts the physical and forensic evidence, as well as the testimony of the other 4 eyewitnesses. McBean was involuntarily hospitalized after a psychotic episode at work 6 days before his death. The defense said his behavior, buying and showcasing the air rifle, was an attempt at suicide by cop. The court did not find evidence to support that, but wrote evidence showed McBean was in the midst of a psychotic episode at the time of the shooting. His last statement indicated he understood the perceived threat.
Rain in his last breath said, "It's only a BB gun."
After his death, a photo of McBean wearing earbuds surfaced.
Did you ever notice any earbuds on him and his ears? No.
Only one medic recalled the earbuds. The court found them irrelevant to the case. While the issue of earbuds might account for the victim's behavior, they do not change the perceived threat from the perspective of the defendant. And the appeal process could take several months. In the meantime, I reached out, but BSO has not yet said if or when Peraza's suspension could be lifted and he could possibly return to duty.
For the first time ever, we're getting a look at LAPD body camera video, and it's raising big questions about how officers handled an arrest. According to a defense attorney, the video show officers plan